Most frustrating part about commercial real estate for me was the fact that, especially back then, there was no content available to help you learn, and nobody wanted to help me. Man, you know what? It's all about having a great team around you, being very picky about the things that you do decide to do. If you invest for cash flow, you're going to stay cash poor. It is what it is, because the amount of time that it's going to take for you to save up enough cash to then go buy the next property again, it just takes forever. Back in 2021, I bought a piece of dirt. I think it ended up being probably close to $140,000 each after we had finished with our rezone.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Commercial Real Estate Blueprint Podcast. We have a very special guest today. We have Tyler Cauble. And if you have ever looked into commercial real estate on the internet at all, then you've seen Tyler. He's like the guy. He's the guy in commercial real estate. He's the main guy who inspired me to start making content. I think it was back in 2020, when the world was on lockdown. I was looking at YouTube videos. You know, I was a new broker, and I was watching commercial real estate stuff, and Tyler was one of the only people putting out content, and he's been doing it a long time consistently. Just an awesome guy, super friendly, super down to earth, and you're incredibly successful. So I'm so excited to have you back on the podcast. This is the second time we've had him on, and yeah, we're excited you're here, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Graham. Jesse, happy to be here, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely,
for sure.
absolutely.
For sure. So you've had a lot of big things going on lately. You just got married, right?
I did. Yep. We just got back from our honeymoon in Japan. It was a good way to end the year.
Yeah, that's incredible. Congratulations on that. That's obviously a huge blessing. I've been with my wife for like almost 6 years now, and it's incredible. Jesse's getting married. What?
Yeah, I'm getting married in June. Yep. Less than
Congrats.
6 months now. Thank you. We're very excited. Getting married up in the mountains of North Carolina. We're super excited for that. Me and Graham are big mountain guys, and so it's gonna be. I'm super excited. And I'm gonna go to the tropics probably for. I think we booked St. Lucia for the honeymoon. So excited for that.
That's great, man. That'll be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's January 16th. Recording this. I'm curious. What do you got? Well, actually, at first, for the rare. The rare occurrence that somebody doesn't know who you are. Give us a little bit of brief background on who you are and what you do.
Sure, yeah. I'm Tyler Cauble. I got started in commercial real estate back in 2013. The most frustrating part about commercial real estate for me was the fact that, especially back then, there was no content available to help you learn and get started. And nobody wanted to help me because I was just competition. And so I always, kind of told myself, hey, as soon as I know enough about commercial real estate, I'm going to teach other people how to do it. The problem with that idea is that by the time you know enough about commercial real estate, you're pretty damn busy doing commercial real estate. And so it wasn't until 2020, as you said, Graham, when the pandemic hit, went from 99% of my time out of office doing deals to 100% in office by myself, not knowing what to do. Nobody wanted to buy any real estate at that time, so I started recording YouTube videos. And here we are. I think we're over 650 videos later now, so covering almost every topic that you could possibly think of in commercial real estate, and it's been a lot of fun. It's opened some really interesting doors. I've got a commercial real estate brokerage, I've got a commercial property management company, and we've got a development firm. We syndicate, so I own over $75 million worth of real estate. But now we've started this mastermind we've got a mastermind for commercial real estate brokers, we've got a mastermind for commercial real estate investors, and that's all because of YouTube. I mean, people just kept reaching out saying, hey, we want to be surrounded by other people that want to learn. And so that's been fun. It's been a really cool journey. It's opened us up to some really interesting deals, and it's fun, man. I feel like I get to just constantly sharpen the tools and learn.
That's so cool, man. You've got a tremendous amount of stuff going on. That's something that Jesse and I always wonder, because we don't have nearly that much stuff going on, but we've got the podcast, got the brokerage, we're investing in deals. Mm-hmm. It's like, how do you manage all that stuff? Like, how do you keep it all together and keep driving the ship forward?
Yeah.
Man, you know what? It's all about having a great team around you, being very picky about the things that you do decide to do, and just working all the time. It's really easy. Fortunately, I love what I do.
Yeah, that's huge. And you probably don't have kids yet, right?
That's right. Yep. I don't have to worry about that. So I have an advantage there.
That's awesome. Yeah, man, that's
easy to get tied up in it.
That's a straight up answer. I like that. Because sometimes it just feels like, you hear all these people maximizing their time and stuff, but it's like, in reality, sometimes you're just grinding nonstop. And that's how it is sometimes. We definitely haven't figured out how to maximize our time. And I have kids, so a lot of times, like at 4:30, 5 o'clock, I'm stepping out to help my wife, and then put him to sleep at 7, and then I'm like, hey, I got to go finish some stuff, and then from 7 to like 10 o'clock, I'm on the computer, whatever it may be. But yeah, it's like, it's nonstop for sure.
Yeah, that's so true. It's not uncommon to see a burst of emails from like 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. I think Graham sent like 3 or 4 out loud the other night at like 9:30. So it's definitely something you have to like commit to and sacrifice a little bit of time for, but it's definitely worth it. Something that we think about with ours and kind of dividing the time is, you probably batch the content and stuff, and with the mastermind, I'd have to say, but the team is definitely important. I'm curious, for somebody that's trying to build out their team, who's like that first person that you would recommend people hiring? Because Graham and I are probably going to wind up hiring an executive assistant this year, but I'm curious how you see it.
Yeah, I would say like my knee-jerk reaction was get an assistant just to help you with all of the stuff that you're doing now that you shouldn't be doing. But I mean, if you guys are doing content and y'all are the one, like, and I don't know, are y'all editing? Are y'all posting the videos? Are y'all doing all of that stuff, creating the shorts?
I do. We have not been consistent at all. And so like it's like very much a sprint. So to answer your question, sometimes yes, sometimes no. I have a background in like video editing and production, so I can really enjoy it. So I try to remind myself not to do it, but sometimes I catch myself like spending too much time editing the videos. But yeah, our podcast we have pretty systemized to where we record for an hour, send it to somebody, they edit it, and then we have somebody else post it and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a big one. Because I mean, I hear from people that, oh, hey, I'm getting into YouTube or the podcast and I'm doing all the editing. I'm doing all of the, splicing and whatever together and creating the shorts. I'm like, man, you've got better things to do with your time. So if you guys already have that off your plates, then I would say, yeah, get an assistant. There's so much that you've got going on, just the back and forth emails, the scheduling things over calendars, that it would really help you quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so for sure. And Jesse kind of jumped into that. That's something I was going to ask you about. So like you obviously are not editing videos and stuff. I remember you mentioning it last time, but what's like and before I go down this rabbit hole, I'm sure people listening are like, oh, we want to hear about commercial real estate, not YouTube. But I think we both agree that, or for sure that the importance of content in today's world and also in today's business, like, you're light years ahead of most people. And if I had to guess, a big part of that, and you've told us before, is the content game. So it's like, this stuff matters. And after doing a lot of research and stuff, it seems like YouTube is obviously the one, the best for like monetization and just longevity. But I'm curious, what does your YouTube system look like? So like, do you have a time block for filming? And then once you do that, you send it off to an editor. And then once they have it, they do all the posting and stuff. Are you involved in any of that aside from just the recording?
So I come up with the idea. I put together the script. I've got a video guy that comes in and shoots me, and then he edits everything. We go back and forth through the edits through Frame.io.
I just learned about that yesterday.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty great. And then once that's done, he uploads it to YouTube for me. I go in, do the description, finalize the title, and I've got a graphic designer on my team that does the thumbnails. So yeah, I mean that's kind of our system. I would say I'm actually probably pretty bad at batching. I've really wanted to get better at that this year. We record like once a week, and we release a video once a week. So, typically we're 2 to 3 weeks ahead, right? So it's not like I'm recording on Tuesday, we're releasing it on Thursday. But one thing I would like to get better about is, just recording 2-3 videos at a time. It can be tough though. I mean, it's exhausting recording in front of a camera, especially when you've got some videos that are 20 or 25 minutes long, because that's essentially 20 to 25 minutes of me just talking, right? So think about just sitting there for 25 minutes and talking. It actually takes a lot out of you.
For sure. It's such an interesting balance because I like to be creative. I like to make videos and stuff. And I've watched a lot of YouTube videos about how to grow your YouTube. And a lot of the people are like, I'm doing everything. And it's like these super creative people, and they're like making these masterpiece videos, and they're doing the title, the thumbnail, the editing, everything. And part of me is like, well, should I do that? And then, you got guys like you who are obviously very successful too. And you got most of the stuff taken off your plate aside from the filming and the scripting. But I feel like those people are generally like, that's their main job. Like, they're content creators. That's all they do. They don't do commercial real estate. They don't do anything else. So I'm trying to be more like you, obviously, where I can sit down, film. But it's interesting. You still do. So you do the script and the title and the description and the filming. So that's still quite a bit. I mean, people who don't do YouTube, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, my philosophy in business, so this applies to YouTube, but it applies to the brokerage, to our investments, all that kind of stuff. I'm only going to do the stuff that I'm better at than everybody else, right? If there's one person that can do it better than me, then they should be doing it and not me. And so, nobody else can record a video as well as I can, right? I mean, it's my channel. So I kind of
Yeah.
have to be the guy that goes and records the video. Now, I've always written the scripts. I've tried working with other people to like co-write scripts and stuff like that. It's never really worked out. I end up having to go back and edit everything so much. But I know at some point I'll be able to find somebody that can write better than I can, right? And can help get, but it's still in my style. And then in the way that I like to explain concepts to the audience and tell stories, because all of that's so important. I've got a graphic designer. He can do thumbnails way better than I ever could, right? So I'm not even going to try and attempt it. It's just not worth it. So that's kind of my philosophy around that is, hey, if there's one person that can do it better than me, why am I spending any of my time on it if it could be better?
For sure. And for your scripts, I'm curious, is it like word for word, or are you more just like hitting bullet points and then kind of riffing?
It depends on the video. Some of them are word for word. Some of them are bullet points. Sometimes I just come in with a list of questions that I have my videographer ask me, and we'll just go through and I'll just off the cuff kind of answer them. So it depends. And, obviously those are the more talking head, like studio videos. We have plenty where we're going out on site and touring with somebody. We call it the story of the deal, where we're sitting down with the investor or the developer behind a project and actually getting an idea of how did you find it? How did you fund it? What were the obstacles that you faced going through this project? What would you do differently? Those are completely off the cuff. I mean, I kind of have an idea of what I want to ask as we're going on the tour, but like when you see me touring the site, that's the first time, most of the time, that I've ever been to that project. And so you're kind of hearing the questions that I would genuinely be asking, because I'm curious about it.
Mm-hmm. That's a great framework. What do you think has been kind of your most successful? Like, I could ask you a bazillion questions, but like, do you have specific video types? I know you do, obviously, the story of the deal, but do you try to stick within like, I'm going to do like a general education video, and then I'm going to do a story of the deal, and then I'm going to do like a podcast? Do you have like specific buckets of videos you try to film, or do you just kind of, I know you have some, but like, is it all specific, or do you just have ideas sometimes?
We do. No, it's all specific now. I mean, it all kind of just started off as, hey, whatever we can record in the studio, let's do that, right? So you think about what's the easiest thing you can record in a studio. It's just an explainer video, right? Like, what is triple net investing? Okay, well, I can sit down, I can talk about that, I can draw it out on a whiteboard or whatever and kind of share it with you. So, those educational videos, they're kind of rare on the channel now. One, because I've done a bunch of them, but two, they don't do well. Like, funny enough, like that is the most helpful in terms of advancing you forward in commercial real estate, but nobody wants to click on what is a triple net lease. Like we just released a video yesterday that's titled "McDonald's Owns Their Real Estate. Why Doesn't Starbucks?" Mm-hmm. Right. So still same vein, we're diving into leasing versus ownership at the corporate real estate level. And we're talking about that. And then I even go into what that means for investors, right? That's a much more entertaining and interesting sounding video than, what is a cap rate, right? And so because of that, we've started to focus more on the storytelling. So like the story of the deal, it's basically a case study. Right? Let's take you on site and show you how this person did it so you can go and do it. Those are my favorites. Now we're starting to do this more like almost semi-documentary style type of video, which is, instead of releasing a video every week, we're now doing it twice a month. So we're spending more time on basically what we're aiming to become a bigger video, which is, like the last one we did before this McDonald's one was the hidden economics behind parking lots. Right. Mm-hmm. That one's done very well. But then, like those are the fully produced videos. We also live stream once or twice a week. And those don't get near the amount of views because they're not going to be as interesting to a broad audience, but they'll get 800, 1,000, 1,200 views. And it gets 2 to 3 times the watch time of our normal video, because that's more of the hardcore audience, right? You're tuning in to my office hours live stream because you have questions about a deal and you want my input on it. You have questions about how to get started in commercial real estate brokerage, and you want my input on it. Or you're tuning into, our deal desk, right? Which is where I really go more into, hey, here's what's going on in the world today, and here's how that applies in commercial real estate. Like we did I think the last episode I did before I took my winter hiatus was on data centers. Right. So we did a deep dive into data centers. Why are data centers a thing? What's going on in that world? Who are the big players? What are the news articles? Where are these things going across the country? So that, one, it's kind of a news piece, but it's also very informative because everybody's asking about data centers right now. Newsflash, unless you work at a private equity fund, you're not going to be able to really get involved in data centers. They're expensive, but it's fun. And so, yeah, we have very different types. We kind of almost treat it like, hey, if we're HGTV, like if my YouTube channel is HGTV, what are the different TV shows that we have for the different audiences under that channel?
That's interesting. I've kind of gone back and forth in exactly the direction I want to take my YouTube. I'm very, very young in my YouTube journey, and I want to do some of the talking head stuff. I want to do some of the story stuff, but I feel like I'd like to raw, just generic, like me talking, just like this would be on my YouTube videos. Because I'm not the guy that has been editing for years and years, and so that's not my strong suit. I can talk about deals, talk about how we've done them, but for someone that's just starting their YouTube, where do you think that people should start with? How much should they post? Should be quality? Should be talking heads? Where should people start?
I think it's whatever you can do better than anybody else. When I got started, it was very easy. It was just make commercial real estate and do higher quality video. There were a couple of guys that were doing commercial real estate videos when I got started, but watching the videos, I was like, man, this is really boring. It's a dude in front of a literal whiteboard who just keeps turning around and drawing on the whiteboard, and it looks like it's being filmed on a Game Boy Color from 2002. And so, I'm like, well, we could do, okay, he's got great content. People are clearly watching this. Let's do great content, but better video quality. Then, there was another guy, all of his stuff was talking head, and then something would just slide across, like next to his head, like a picture or something like that, and then it would go away. So it's like, okay, so he's got great content, but the B-roll isn't there. So let's shoot very intentional B-roll and really keep everybody engaged and entertained as you're going through this. Just because it's educational and it's dense and full of numbers and math and formulas and all this kind of stuff doesn't mean that it can't be fun, right? And so if you can find a way to make your video as entertaining as possible, as interesting as possible, that's what I would say. That's where you start.
Gotcha. Do you have all your videos? And I think I know the answer to this, but there's so many different. I feel like one of the hardest parts about YouTube is you can watch 10 different YouTube gurus tell you 10 different strategies and disagree with each other. And I feel like, maybe there's truth in all of them. They could all work. So it's hard to pick a strategy and go with it. I was posting all my videos on my channel just with my name, and I was doing a podcast, and then every once in a while when I had time, I would throw in like a day in the life video or a deal breakdown video or whatever. I had somebody tell me recently that I need to split them into two, have like one that's just a podcast channel so people know what to expect, and then it's sort of a separate channel that's just like the day in the life type stuff. But you have all your videos on one channel, right? Or do you have them separated?
I do. I mean, the way that we differentiate that is through the thumbnails and through the titles. Like you can kind of tell, like my deal desk, like it's got a deal desk logo on it. It's got me holding a newspaper in the thumbnail, and, it's very clear, like we're diving into a piece of news. But, it's at the end of the day, it really comes down to just how interesting is the topic and how interesting is the title and thumbnail, right? Because if you're talking about a topic that people want to know more about, they're going to watch it. It doesn't matter if it's a fully produced video or if it's a live stream, So that's kind of what I found. I mean, look, here's the thing. I've got live streams that have over 100,000 views, right?
That's
and
awesome.
It wasn't necessarily something that I had expected was going to happen with that live stream. It was just an interesting enough topic that people kept wanting to watch it over and over again. Like we did a live stream a couple of years ago. I used to have this segment called the Brokers Roundtable, where I had several brokers come on with me, great group of guys. Those were always fun discussions. We did one that was titled Getting Started as a Commercial Real Estate Broker. It's got nearly 17,000 views. We recorded it over an hour, in September of 2023, right? So that's still getting me views today. Which is really cool. So I think it's just about what's the topic, what's going to get people to click.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I'm still waffling back and forth on which one to do, but it seems like every time you post a video, like you said, it's just, is the topic interesting enough? Like, I feel like each video can kind of stand on its own. So it's like if you post one that's good and it's a good topic and it's packaged well, then it could go blow up regardless of what channel it's on and stuff. Because I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible and not be too overwhelmed because there's so much stuff going on. Something I noticed you've been doing recently, and I wanted to ask you about is it seems like you've been posting your YouTube videos on LinkedIn. Have you seen that doing well, or is it like there a reason behind that aside from just more reach, or what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's just more reach. I mean, our thought was, we've already recorded the content. Why not put it out on LinkedIn as well? LinkedIn is really pushing video right now. And, I'm going to try and see if I can pull up my LinkedIn stats so I can kind of tell
Mhm.
you about it. But, those videos have been doing really well. It's interesting, what's been going on. So like one of the videos that we posted, I mean, obviously it's not going to get the type of watch time or anything like that it would if it was just on YouTube, but a little short that was 90 seconds long. Ended up getting 1,100 impressions, 23 or 8 comments. So like that was something that we did for TikTok and Instagram. Why not go ahead and throw it on LinkedIn and just see what happens,
Yeah.
But I've had some videos absolutely take off on LinkedIn, which is kind of wild.
That's cool.
That's awesome. And then it seems like for Instagram, you don't post nearly as much on there. Do you do that on purpose or?
No, I mean, I used to have a photographer on staff, so we were just taking way more pictures back in the day. Like if you go to it, I've got like over 500 posts on Instagram. A majority of that was basically from like 2018 to probably 2021-ish. And then Instagram changed its algorithm and my photos stopped, like my stories and everything that we were doing on Instagram stopped reaching as much of an audience. This is crazy. I've got the same amount of followers on Instagram today that I did 5 years ago.
Wow.
Like, which is wild. And that's because,
crazy.
And people are still following me. It's, I go through and I delete the inactive accounts, like people that have deleted their accounts and stuff like that, because there's just no point in having that as a follower. And I still, like when I post something, it'll reach like 1,500 of my audience, maybe 2,000. Sometimes if it really takes off, like obviously when I announced I got married, it reached 16,000 people, right? But my 2 posts before that, when I was talking about the mastermind, reached 2,200. It's like, how am I only reaching 10% of the audience that told me that they want to see my stuff, right? So that's that. I mean, like when that started happening on Instagram, I was like, okay, I'll keep posting occasionally. This will still be my mouthpiece because I use the Instagram stories to really communicate with my audience a lot. But I'm not going to invest nearly as much into this as I used to.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting because I don't have nearly as good a content as you, but when I do post a video or something, it typically gets like, over time, maybe 1,000 to 2,000 views if it's like a short or something. And I can't really seem to crack past that. But the other day I posted, or this was probably a month ago at this point, I posted like a carousel. So it's like the first photo was like me and my family and we just moved and bought a new house. And then like the rest of it was like my kids and stuff. I got 300,000 views.
Wow.
300,000. I didn't even know a carousel could get that many views. It's like, what in the world? That's by far
killer.
the most like views I've ever gotten on something. And everything else is like, 500,000, 1,500. So Instagram's a hard one to understand, but I've heard a lot of YouTube people say like, YouTube's where the brands, like if you're going after like monetizing, like YouTube's where your audience will come to trust you. You could do a mastermind or brands will reach out to you and sponsor you. And like, there's a lot more value in creating a YouTube channel than like just building your Instagram. Now I know people make money off Instagram too, obviously, but I'm wondering do you kind of think the same thing or?
Oh yeah. I mean, look, if I had to pick one, it's YouTube, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we would drop LinkedIn, we would drop Instagram, we'd drop Twitter. I mean, we barely use Twitter anymore anyway. It just doesn't work. But, to me, like the relationship that you're able to build with your audience through YouTube and then subsequently a podcast, right? Because all of my live streams, that is my podcast. We just pull the audio off and send it to the podcast world. That like you're in somebody's ears for 30, 40, 60 minutes, right? And they just get to know you so much better than they would through one Instagram post with a picture,
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's actually an interesting idea, Graham. We should maybe consider doing a live podcast and then just taking it off YouTube and then throwing it onto the normal podcast platforms. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking. You got me thinking about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So in terms of we talk about all this YouTube stuff, and obviously I think YouTube's very important. That's a big part of my goals this year is to be more serious about it because I've dabbled in it for like 3 years at this point, just posting here, posting there. I've got the podcast going consistently, but I want to do more, day in the life type videos, showing the deals we're doing and stuff like that. But for our audience who's their main interest is getting into commercial real estate and commercial real estate investing. Mm-hmm. What would you tell that person who's listening to this thinking, oh, yeah, all stuff's silly, like about the content and why it's important in today's, world?
Man, if somebody still thinks that content is silly today, then they're living under a rock. Look, you don't have to be the best commercial real estate broker out there. You just got to be the one that gets found, right? I mean, people don't, in the commercial real estate world, we get so myopic and think that the entire world is commercial real estate, and it's not. People who are running a dental office sign a lease once every 10 years. Why would they care at all about the world of commercial real estate outside of, wanting to invest in it, right? They don't. Like, it's just not something they normally do. As such, they typically don't have relationships with brokers, right? So if you are the one that is in front of them when they are looking to go sign a lease or move their location or do whatever they're trying to do, you're the one that's going to get the business. They're not going to sit there and be like, okay, well, can you provide me a ranking of all of the different brokers that have closed more business than you this year? Nobody ever asks that kind of stuff. It's, hey, look, I've been doing this for 5, 10, 12 years, whatever. And we're here are all the other deals we've done. We're ready for your business, right? So content is the easiest way for you to get out in front of people. It's the megaphone, right? Everybody has a soapbox that they can stand on and share their opinions and build up that audience of like-minded people, right? That's the best part about it. People used to say, oh, don't post about politics or don't post about, your controversial views on things. I don't really care, right? Like I when I first started getting covered in tattoos, I've got a lot of tattoos now. My family, my bosses, people I worked with, they're all like, oh, make sure that nobody ever sees those because, you might not get a job or you might not get business out of it. It's like, dude, I don't want to do business with somebody that doesn't want to do business with me because I have tattoos. I don't want to do business with somebody that doesn't agree with my take on why Nashville should have mass transit, right? Like if you don't agree that Nashville should have mass transit, I think you're an idiot and I don't want to work with you, right? So it's kind of nice to like actually have your audience self-select and then reach out to you instead of you having to reach out to them. They're already bought on working with you. I mean, that's the most fun part about working with clients from my podcast or from my YouTube channel or from my Instagram account that reach out to me. Like they already know me and my philosophy and how we like to do business. I don't have to pitch them on that at all. They're like, hey, are we good enough for you? Right? Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think everything you're talking about is just like, what people talk about being personal brand. People resonate with, there's a lot more people talking about commercial real estate, but people are more interested in like, my opinion views. Like you're very authentic, you're very down to earth, you're not the buttoned up, like white shirt, blue suit, like your standard typical commercial real estate guy. And we're definitely not either. And I love that. And I think a lot of people resonate with that. They don't want to be these stuffy, like nothing against those people, but you know what I'm saying? Like more uptight, super, super, super serious and professional like vibe. You're more of a, I'm down to earth. I like what I like. I like tattoos. I like Nashville. It's cool. And people love that. And I think that's so cool. And what's so important about like the personal brand side of things. And you'll attract the people, like you said, like-minded who want to be with you. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a real human and I work with real humans, right? I mean, I don't work with corporate America. I don't want to, right? It's just a totally different world that does, the red tape, and it's just not fun to me. Like I love the entrepreneurship and the boots on the ground. And they're like, hey, we're in the trenches fighting this together. I love that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You said something I don't want to brush over earlier that's shocking to me. I don't really like X at all. I'm not a big X fan or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. Never have been. But everybody in the commercial real estate world, it's like, you got to be on X. You got to be on Twitter. It's the commercial real estate social media platform. And then you, in passing, just said, oh, yeah, X doesn't work, so we only post on there. So I'm curious to hear your take on it.
Okay, here's the thing. People in commercial real estate are largely stuck a few decades in the past. I still think most people are stuck in the 1980s, right? And so it's the same with Twitter. Twitter was decent up until 2020. Everybody that's big in commercial real estate Twitter today got big during 2020, like for the most part, right? Like Moses Kagan and all those guys, right? Chris Powers. I don't know if I know for a fact the algorithm has changed since Elon bought it, but even before that, it got to a point where it got so saturated that nobody else could break in anymore. And also, Twitter's a dumpster fire, dude. Like your tweets have a shelf life of like 5 seconds. So why would you waste your time unless you're a politician or unless you're like some massive figure, right? Like I get everything that I would get out of Twitter through Instagram and actually being able to communicate directly with my audience. So like I just don't see the value of Twitter. No matter what we have tried on Twitter, it doesn't work. Now, that's not to say like, hey, we're experts on Twitter. Here's why it doesn't. It didn't work for us. And to me, looking at it, what's the point in investing the time when I put in a tenth of the effort on YouTube and get 1,000 times the results? So that's my take on it. I don't think Twitter's worth it.
Yeah. I think what we're not saying too is that YouTube is number one, but we're also going to use the other platforms just to pull it back to YouTube, right? You mentioned we're posting on LinkedIn, but you're really just posting your YouTube videos out there to get that reach and that audience, because it's a lot of professional people, right? Pull them over onto YouTube. Graham and I were kind of talking about that this morning a little bit. Are you going to focus on YouTube, or we're just going to post some of the other stuff on the different platforms, directing it to YouTube? So I think that's good. I think that's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like maybe like Twitter used to be better for that. It's just not anymore.
Yeah.
And, I used to have Twitter Premium. I might still, because, when we were live streaming, I was like, oh, okay, well, we can live stream to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter at the same time. Let's do it. And I would always get a bunch of people jumping on from Twitter, but then I started realizing like they don't engage. They're not tweeting at me about this conversation or anything, no matter how much I would try and get them engaged. And it doesn't count for any other metrics. So I was like, well, then we're just going to stay on YouTube, right? Because at least people on LinkedIn and YouTube would comment, they would have conversations. I couldn't get anybody from Twitter. So I was like, are these even real viewers? It'd be like 20 or 30 people from Twitter on our live streams, and I could never get them to interact.
That's interesting. That's all super interesting stuff. You've obviously provided a ton of value on the content side. Switching gears a little bit, we got a little time left to just kind of what you're working on in commercial real estate. I know you said you have a portfolio of $75 million in commercial real estate. Talk to us a little bit about what asset class, that's broken down into. Like, what kind of deals do you guys have?
A little bit of everything. I've got about 1.5 million square feet of industrial, got a few 100,000 square feet of retail, got some office, finishing up a hotel. So we do a little bit of everything. I mean, to me, it's like whatever's going to be interesting and fun and keep me entertained. And more so within specific neighborhoods, right? Like we don't just invest all over. You can't have this general philosophy when it comes to the asset classes that you're willing to invest in, and then also invest generally everywhere. So I'm very specific. I love East Nashville and I love South Chattanooga. Like that, those are the two markets that we invest in. Will I consider other markets? Sure. It's just we're not even remotely looking for that today. But yeah, that's it. I mean, it's we're working on buying a couple more assets this year. We just bought a 101,000 square foot flex facility back in August, and I've got a couple of deals I bought with no partners, just myself this year, which was kind of fun. And we'll kind of see where the road takes us. I'm finishing up a 350 unit self-storage facility out in Chattanooga right now. Really excited for that one to get going because it's just going to cash flow like crazy, which will really be the first cash flowing deal I've ever done, which surprises a lot of people. But, I didn't build my portfolio off of cash flow because I have an active job. So I don't need the cash flow. I wanted to build up the assets. The problem is, we could talk about this philosophy too if you guys want, but most investors jump into real estate, and this isn't just commercial real estate, it's residential too, only going for cash flow. And that's great. But if you do that, it is going to take you absolutely forever to grow. Forever. I mean, I've got deals where I put $1,000 into it. We flipped it 3 years later. I made $400,000. The amount of cash flow that we would have had to have received from that project for me to get that same amount of money in 3 years is physically impossible. So that's kind of why I don't invest for cash flow. But yeah, I know that was off, kind of on a tangent, but that's kind of what we've got going on.
No, that's a great point in philosophy and something I'd love to talk about because we are, definitely fall into that camp of we're going after cash flow. Because I like brokerage, I enjoy brokerage, but also I don't want to be reliant on the hamster wheel of brokerage. Because, right now we're just brokers. We don't have a team like you, which eventually be cool to build out a team so that maybe it's a little less hands-on. But so you're basically just saying, for the audience who maybe doesn't follow quite as much, you're okay, investing some money, maybe having a much lower cash on cash return. And then you're just banking on like value add deals where you get equity pops, where you're refinancing or selling. Is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, if you invest for cash flow, you're going to stay cash poor. It is what it is, because the amount of time that it's going to take for you to save up enough cash to then go buy the next property again, it just takes forever. Whereas if I go and buy a completely vacant building that has a lot of deferred maintenance, I fix it up, I sign a lease. Now I bought it on a price per square foot basis. Now I'm selling it on a cap rate basis. you're going to make a pretty big spread, and then you can decide what you want to do with that money. So, for example, back in 2021, I bought a piece of dirt with a partner. We went in 50-50, $100,000 each. I think it ended up being probably close to $140,000 each after we had finished with our rezoning. But it was zoned for, I think, 11 units, and we got it rezoned for 63 units, right? So it cost us about another 80 grand. We bought it for $618,000. Like I said, we put in about 140 each. Flipped it for $1,575,000 in 3 years, less than really. The amount of I could not get that amount of cash flow. I mean, basically, I walked away. Let's say we had 400,000, so $1,000,001 divided in two. I walked away with like $550,000 minus my initial 140. So let's call it $300,000. All right. Over that 36-month period, I would have had to have been making over $1,000, $10,000, like $8,000 a month in cash flow to get the same. Could you invest $100,000 to get $8,000 a month in cash flow? If you have a deal like that, please call me. I really, really, really want it, but it's not out there. It's not going to happen, right? So that's why I like coming in with these heavy value add projects. We get these giant equity pops. Then we do a 1031 exchange into something more passive. So that 100 grand, we now put into a self-storage facility, right? That self-storage facility, once it's fully up and running, will net me about $15,000 a month. Again, if you can go find a deal that nets $15,000 a month with a $100,000 initial investment and some elbow grease, I want to buy it, right? Like that is a hell of a deal. So that's why. Does that help kind of like get that point across a little bit more?
100%.
I mean, it goes along with what some of our mentors have told us is you got to sell in the beginning, right? You've got to find something, create some equity, sell it, realize it, prove it to investors you can actually do it, right? And then take that cash that you maybe put into it, maybe borrowed from, pay off that investor, then move on to the next deal, and then use that as it goes back to, reminds me of like, if you can sell and get, I think most people consider this a rule, but 10 years of cash flow in 1 year, take that. Now you're compressing 10 years of cash flow into one deal. That's basically what you're saying. Not 10 years, but you're compressing that cash flow into one equity pop and then moving on to the next thing. And you're going after speed. I'm going to add as much value as possible, sell it on a cap rate, move on to the next deal. I can put into something passive after that. But it's going to take forever for us to just sit here, save up enough pennies, if you will, to then buy for cash flow. So, I mean, I definitely see it. I definitely understand it. I definitely do.
I mean, I would even push it to 3 years, right? Like maybe 2 years, probably not worth it. But if I get 3 years of cash flow by selling this, that means I can go ahead and take 3 years of work and buy another property today, right? So you just, the power of real estate is compounding over time. So if I can compress 3 years into right now and go buy something else, I'm going to do that every single time. I mean, look, cash flows for old guys that want to retire and not do anything, right? Like we're all young here. You guys can find something that's totally vacant and put your own work into it to go find a tenant, get it reappraised on a cap rate, pull that cash back out, and then go buy the next property. You're going to be at a point, when you're 50, 60 years old, we're like, actually, I don't want to do that anymore. I would rather just buy a Starbucks on a double net basis and collect $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
So we
100%. We did exactly what you just said on our most recent deal we closed. This was in July. It was a small building, it's 10,000 feet. We actually, this is another interesting strategy, but we got 75% seller financing, 25% hard money. And then we took it, did a little work, brought the lease to market rate, refied out the hard money, and then kept it. So we're no money into that deal. And then on a cap rate basis, we could probably sell it and make like $200,000, which would be awesome. So yeah, we're 100%. You just laid out, for people listening, you just laid out, a master class on what you should do in the beginning. It's like, find a deal. It's almost like flipping in commercial real estate, but you do a flip or two and you make a lot of money. And in commercial real estate, you can make way more than, flipping a house. And like you said, it's honestly not rocket science. You find a vacant building that needs work, you do the renovations, you put in the time and effort to lease the building, and then you sell it on a cap rate. And we've done that exact thing multiple times, but we haven't sold. So like we did another building, it's completely empty. We bought it on seller financing. We didn't really do much work to it because we didn't have a lot of cash at that point, but we leased it to a tenant for 5 years, and now it's worth, quite a bit more money, like probably $400,000 to $500,000 more.
Yeah.
So you're saying if we sell it maybe we sell it and keep going. But what do you say to the people? Well, you already kind of answered it, saying it's for older guys who just want to sit and chill. But like the people who say like, long-term wealth and like legacy wealth is like holding these things over a long period of time, and it's like never sell.
There's certain assets that I think are worth just holding for the rest of your life if you have a personal reason to do so, because it's not going to be a business reason. There are very few strong business cases for you holding the same piece of real estate forever. You are going to get the overwhelming majority of value out of that property in the first 5 to 7 years. Now, if you're planning on holding it for 30 years, then that's totally wrong, right? But we're talking about 20, 30 years as opposed to 5 or 7. In the first 5 to 7 years, with depreciation, with the amount of value that you can create, that is like the maximum value per time, like typically the highest IRR that you are able to create. After that, the IRR starts going down, but the overall value of the property could continue to go up, right? So then you have to start thinking, okay, well, should I be selling my properties every 5 to 7 years and 1031 exchanging into the next one? That's really a lot of my philosophy, depending on the asset. Now, in East Nashville, we're not doing that because I want to own and control this neighborhood. So it's not necessarily worth it to me to keep doing that. But build like projects that we've done outside of this neighborhood, absolutely. Every 5 to 7 years, we're getting in, we're doing our work, we're increasing the value as much as possible, we're selling it, we're moving on to the next one. So, I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think that somebody can say like, no, this is the only strategy that works. I think holding for the long term is a great strategy. I think that selling every 5 to 7 years and maximizing your returns is also a great strategy. I think that really where the magic happens is if you actually combine the two and take that approach.
100%. Pick and choose. You buy a bunch of deals, and then the really solid ones, or maybe in the areas you really like, you hold those forever.
That's right.
And then the ones that you've created some value, you're not as attached to them, you flip them. And yeah, I think that's probably the approach we're going to take. Well, we're coming up on 45 minutes. I know you had a 45-minute cutoff. I want to give you the opportunity to tell everybody about like the different, you have a bunch of different businesses. You were talking about your mastermind. So if people want to get involved in those, tell us about what kind of the things you offer to an audience, because I'm sure some of our audience would be interested.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look, I think the only place that I would point everybody to is the YouTube channel. Like, just go check it out. If you're interested in commercial real estate, we've got a lot of really great videos on there, all sorts of stories, how-tos, breakdowns. If you ever want advice, come hang out with one of my live streams. I give everybody advice for free on those. So, it's just under my name, Tyler Cauble.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tyler. This has been a masterclass on, the first half was masterclass on YouTube, and the second half was masterclass on just a pretty simple commercial real estate strategy that can make you, a lot of money and also can be a lot of fun. So we really appreciate you coming on here. Definitely go check out Tyler's channel, Tyler Cauble on YouTube. He'll pop right up. So thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Tyler.
Awesome. See you guys in the next one.